Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Roseville Wrecking Ball. The Roseville Wrecking Ball.
Joshua Shrum. He is a very talented steward, very knowledgeable.
The Roseville Wrecking Ball. This is one of those podcasts where I listen to every episode. I love what he's putting out there.
The Roseville Wrecking Ball. Josh Shrum.
Parcels of Knowledge. Does a fantastic job with that podcast.
The Roseville Wrecking Ball. He is an Article 8 scholar, and thank God. We need Article 8 scholars right now.
Tune into the Parcels of Knowledge podcast while you're on the route. That's the mailman's playbook, brother.
All right. Welcome back to Parcels of Knowledge, the podcast dedicated to delivering knowledge to the city letter carrier with your host, the Roseville Wrecking Ball. Today we have a guest of honor, our Saturday guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yep. Hey, my name is Eddie Davidson. I'm a letter carrier from branch 382 in Durham, North Carolina, and I'm currently the national business agent for Region 9, which covers North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. So,
all right.
That's pretty much it, man.
Man, Florida and Georgia, those are always destinations for people from Michigan when they're on vacation. I know that. Let's see. Yeah. Brother Davidson. I'm just going to let everyone know these questions were submitted by the listeners. We're just going to go in no particular order. Brother Davidson, how long did you serve in the U.S. Army, and what was your MOS? I'm not sure what that means. And were you ever deployed?
Okay, no, that's a good question. Look, man, I ain't know, I can tell you this, man. My vision through the military is a little bit different, and let me tell you what happened to me. So, man, I was in college. I was a college athlete. I was playing football in college. I had a lot of injuries. I actually came home. I'm a second generation letter carrier. My father's retired military. He was a letter carrier, just like me. He was a branch president in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. But I came back, had some issues and everything with college, with going on with injuries. So the reason I'm kind of going off task because I want to kind of explain kind of what led me to the military is I was a transitional. I did two 90-day casual periods as a clerk. I became a transitional city carrier. I did 2.5 years before I got converted to be a part-time flexible in Durham, North Carolina. I've been a part-time flexible about 13 to 14 months. And man, I had probably one of the worst things I could hope that ever happens to anybody. And what that was is there was one evening that I left home, and I was actually was leaving work going to a postal service like softball league game. I came across a bridge, and there was like a trailer park there, and a 4-year-old little boy ran across the road right in front of me. I ran over the kid. I killed him. I mean, it was by all means. It wasn't nothing I could do, but that don't mean you don't live with it for the rest of your life. The kid was airlifted off. He lived about a day or so and he ended up passing away. The reason I say that is because after that, man, I was distraught. I mean, I really was. I was battling a lot of depression. The one thing I will tell you, man, is I say it all the time, is I'm a union guy. The union guys before me, they were there for me during that time. I started like calling out a lot and stuff like that. And my father's retired military. He's a Vietnam veteran. My father told me, he's like, look, man, you need to do something. You need to get away. You need to get your head straight. So at the time, man, it was one of my best friends. And we actually went over there and we joined the Army. We did the buddy program. I actually went into Army Reserves. I was a 92 Romeo parachute rigger. That's what my contract was. So I left, went to basic, went to airborne school, went to AIT and all that right there. I did that. I did my complete contract, got out in I think 2000 and think I went in 90, maybe 93, 94. I think I got out, ended up getting out in 2001 after I had an injury. I was deployed for 8 months one time over to Kaiserslautern, Germany. I was dealing with during the Kosovo. I think that was 96, 97. Like I said, with me being a 92 Romeo, my main objective I dealt with was AD, air delivery. So we did a lot of stuff over there. During that time, uh, I got a lot of opportunities to train with the German Army, the Belgian Army. I ended up getting the German shooter's badge. I got my Korean rock wings in Fort Bragg, as well as I got my Belgium jump wings when I went to Belgium, jumped out of blimps. Did that right there. Like I said, I ended up being totally activated that time. I think it was supposed to be 10 months. I think we got back in 6 or 7. But like I said, I was never active. I was never deployed to Iraq or any of them or Pakistan or any of them kind of conflicts. I did that. I actually had I think it was in 1999 or 2000. There's one thing we always did in our unit is most time our unit every month is what we would do. My unit was in Fort Bragg. What would happen is the Tennessee Air Guard would come in and we would jump with them. They would have C-130s, or a lot of times we would jump from Chinooks and Blackhawks or Hueys, depends on who was there. We did a lot of jumps. In 1999, we would always have like a Christmas party. We would do a night jump. I did a night jump in Sicily and Fort Bragg, and I actually landed in a foxhole, and I ended up rupturing a couple of vertebrae in my back. I think it was my L4, my L5. I ended up having to have a surgery in Duke University after that. I got that, and then, like I said, I finished my contract. I think maybe 2000, 2001 is I think when I ended up getting out. One thing I want to mention before I get off my military is the best thing that ever happened to me in my whole life, man, happened in Fort Benning, Georgia, because when I was there, I met my wife. My wife came from Yorktown, Texas. She came up there. She was a 92 Romeo. She was a pack specialist. She was in the regular army. I met her in airborne school. After that, she was stationed in Fort Bragg, 612 COSCOM. She was airborne. She's a tough lady. She ended up being in a very bad jumping accident where she got drugged. To this day, she still has a lot of injuries from it. She's a 100% disabled veteran. She knows a lot about it, which is one of the reasons why she oversees the veterans group for the NALC, just based on a lot of the stuff she's went through. But again, nothing special, man. I did my time, I did my service. A tragedy put me there. But I always say this, and I tell this a lot to stories to young carriers is, I was a young guy that got on the Postal Service and got PTF in 2.5 years, and I took it for granted. When you go away to the military, I did it backwards. You go to the military when you got to take orders and you spend a lot of time doing that right there. You come back to this job and you really appreciate it. So I really appreciate it. Helped me grow up and helped me get my head straight. But again, it's a tragedy that I went through. There's not a day that don't go by, but you don't have to think about that. Can you imagine me? I had 2 little girls and a son. And any time that I would see them close to a road or anything, I'd freak out. It's a very traumatic thing I went through, but I always say, man, you never know what somebody's got going on in their mind. And that includes letter carriers. You never know what a letter carrier's really got going on.
Absolutely.
I really think about it in this job a lot because I've been there, done that. So, but that's pretty much it on that. So I hope that answered that pretty good for you. So
Yeah, I can't imagine how that feels. Thanks for sharing that. Let's see.
Right.
Have you announced your candidacy for any specific position?
Man, look, right now I'm the national business agent for Region 9. I can tell you this. I love being a national business agent for Region 9. Look, man, I listened. I had a little bit of time today. We actually finished the convention, and I actually have another training. One of my REAs is actually training some of our route protection people today. I went by there, but I was listening. I listened to your and Carl Coy's podcast. And, some of the things he said, right, I agree with him on this. And that's why I say it's important. In this day and time, you got to have a ticket. You got to be with a ticket. You need to have a ticket. You know why? Because there's not one damn person that's going to run a union and change it by himself. You got to surround yourself with the right people. They got to have the experience. They got to have your back. And that's what's important. So my answer to that right now is right now I'm planning to be the national business agent of Region 9. I plan on picking a side sooner or later, but I'm gonna be honest with you, man. It's dirty and nasty right now. I'm tired of, look, man, I'm tired of the name calling. I say this all the time, man. We beat ourselves up more. I listened to a podcast the other day, and they bitched and rant and just raised hell about the damn union the whole time, and they never talked about the postal service. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Look, I got my bitches and complaints, and I can tell you this, and you can verify this with people on the executive board. I don't hold my damn tongue. I went at it with Renfro. I went at it with all of them. If I disagree, I disagree. It ain't nothing personal. But my point is, right now, man, is that's where I'm at. You know what I mean? Have I been asked? I think one of the questions, have I been asked to run on other tickets? I think everybody knows that. I have. You know what I mean? I've been asked by every ticket, I think, so far. I haven't talked to Renfro, but to be the executive vice president of the NALC. You know what I mean? Their interpretation and my interpretation of why I turned it down is two different things. But here's the deal, man. I'm not going to get into a pissing contest about how it went about and what it went about. But I will tell you this right here, Josh, is when I run for national business agent last time, I was the outside one to win. And I'm going to tell you why. Because there was an RAA that had announced about 14 months early that he was going to run, that was already in that office. He was out in the field. And I was the executive assistant to the national president, trying to help the national president get Social Security Fairness Act and postal reform through. He had a huge advantage on me. He got out way early. And I'll be honest with you, man, it took away from the region. That office was divided. They were fighting. There were so many people worried about politics that they were forgetting about the representation of the members. And I made myself a promise. Whether it makes me not eligible to run for another position, then because I hear this all the time, I'm too late. I'm too late to the game. You got to get out there. Look, if I got to walk away from my people, if I'm going to have somebody ask me to EVP and want me to announce last February, then that's a problem. Because as soon as I make that announcement, then I've hurt my members and my people. And that's what's not understand, Josh. Because look, dude, you know what the deal is. My legs would get cut out from under me. That if I'm going to make a choice like that, that's selfish of me to the members in Region 9. And they would suffer and the representation would suffer. And I am not going to do that right there. Every day, my guys are like an intricate piece of a puzzle that pay attention to detail and they work together. And we've made a difference in this region. Like I said, if it's so be it at me staying in Region 9 because I didn't start a campaign 2 years, or I'm not out on social media talking shit and all that, well then so be it. Then I'll stay right here. You know what I mean? Look, I had a dude call me the other day. Serious. I had a dude call me the other day and told me he cussed me out, told me I was the biggest piece of shit in the world. Because I'm gonna step into the race, and also I'm gonna do is take votes away from James Henry and Mike Carriff, and we're gonna be stuck with Renfro again. And I'm like, well, who the hell are you? We ain't even had nominations yet. You know what I mean? But my point is, hey man, I've said this over and over again. Right now, I'm fine with this right here. If there is a solid ticket that comes together, that I think is a solid ticket that's well-rounded, that everybody's going to have each other's backs, and we can make some changes to NALC headquarters, I would consider that right there. I promise you that right there. So.
All right. Well, if Mike Carriff is elected NALC president and you're in the national office, are you willing to work with him and support the agenda chosen by the membership, regardless of campaign differences?
Yeah, well, what difference do me and Mike got? Look, look, you know what I love about Mike Carriff? Me and Mike Carriff sit there and cuss each other out. And then 10 minutes later, he'd be like, hey, man, you want to go get something to eat? The problem that Mike Carriff, look, here's the problem Mike Carriff's got. I think that's a question for Mike Carriff. Because Mike Carriff is pretty much alienated a lot of the national officers. So the question is he going to be able to get them to work with him? whether it be CLC, whether it be the incumbents and all that, that's a question for him right there. Let me tell you this right now. The answer to that is, by all means, I will work my ass off if Mike carries the national presence, just like Jane and just like Brian Renfro. Because I see it like this, man. The members have spoken and chosen. I might not like it, but I'm gonna do what I gotta do. I had people tell me all the time, "Oh, you a daggone Brian Renfro bootlicker and all this other kind of shit," and I'm like, "Look, right now, I'm gonna take whatever I got and make the most of it for my members, because if I'm gonna sit back and make a bunch of damn excuses why I can't do this and do this and blame it on Brian Renfro, then I don't need to be a national business agent. All right, we got to say it in my office. Our thing is to take what we got to do is take chicken shit and make chicken salad out of it for our members. And we do it every day. So my thing is, I will work with Mike. I'll work with James. I'll work with Corey. I'll work with whoever wins. You know what I'm saying? Is that's not a problem. I can tell you this right now. There's a whole lot of people down here in my office in this region that were enemy against me. And them guys right there worked their ass off for me, because this is what my father told me a long time ago. After the election's over, you got to let it go. And what you got to do is you got to earn the respects of the ones that didn't vote for you. And hopefully they're going to vote for you the next time because you did a job. And that's the way I see it, Josh. So.
All right. Any plans on educating new members? They put nationwide, but I don't know if that applies, but just in general.
Man, I can tell you, man, everything should be about educating the new members. And I'm not just talking about carrying mail properly. I'm talking about the history of the union, making them understand is not everything is just about what you take home in your pocket. I mean, there's one thing that we forgot about in this election line. That's legislation and politics. It's huge, man. And look, I got a different front from this. I was a state chair for 11 years. I was a vice president for the AFL-CIO. I ran a lot of campaigns. And I worked up there right under Fred Rolando, running the legislative department and doing everything we can to mobilize our people. We got to get back to that, Josh. The coolest thing that I talk about when Fred Rolando was the president is here's how it worked, man. And let me start by this. The lobbyists we got, Corey Keller, they can go in there and talk a shit about the money she makes and all this right here. She's effective, bro. You have to have somebody that has relationships with a minority and majority leaders. They got to be linked in. And you best believe there's a lot of other unions trying to snatch her from us because of the contacts we got. And I can tell you this is how it went with him. First off, man, during midterms, of course, if you don't know, every time we had 2 years, man, Congress rolls over. That means any co-sponsors, any House resolutions or bills have to start over. So that means that every bill we have, whether like the biggest thing right now is the Retirement Fairness Act, then you got to have somebody to introduce that. So we would already be prepared before the new Congress went in. As soon as it went in, we had somebody introduce the legislation, and then we mobilized our members out there and started them to start working on us getting bipartisan, and we would do that by May. See, we got to get back to the grassroots and using those guys and our lobby. That's what's going to protect us in the future. That's what's going to get these guys. I had a young lady from Atlanta yesterday. She's like, I need in contract negotiations. We need to get this where I can get my TE time back, because I got to have hip surgery. And if not, I'm gonna have to work another 2.5 years. And I was like, well, we got to pick up our damn game, and we can't do it in bargaining. We got to do it legislatively. We got to pick our damn game up, man. We got to get our people out there. We got to get them educated and make them work for it. If they want it, then they can make it happen. And I believe that letter carriers can make action happen. That's how we got, we got daggum, the Retirement Fairness Act through and all that right there. It came from the letter carriers. They have the relationships from the constituents, from what they do. And Josh, we got to get them going again, but they got to understand the importance of legislation. It don't matter what political affiliation you are, we got to get it going. So
that makes sense. What are you going to do to help small independent branches who don't have resources and little to no representation?
Dude, that's a great question, and I'm the perfect region for that. I had the most dysfunctional branches in the country. I'm the second largest region. I think at one time I had 149 dysfunctional branches, and when I say dysfunctional, it's not a remark on them. It means they didn't have an active executive board, they didn't have an active treasury, and they didn't have no representation. The last thing we do was forced merger. However, I think we've more forced merged probably maybe 70 475. I'm gonna be honest with you. Every time I talk to your national business agent, David Mudd, he's been the top dog for it. I've been
Yep.
trying to say I'm gonna beat him. He's been like very good at it, excellent at it. Matter of fact is when I got in here and the first thing I did is I went to David and said, "Show me the criteria, what you're doing." But let me tell you what we do. We don't just go in there and force merge people. What we do, man, is I send my RGA in there, the first to take an evaluation, see what's going on, try to find the next generation carrier that might want to step up to the plate. Sometimes we can find out, sometimes we don't. Then we try to get special dispensations to run elections to help them put an executive board so that they can run like a proper branch. We do everything. We just actually were able to do that in Tucker, Georgia. And it was really cool to see a group of young people with less than 2 years at the Postal Service come in and we're able to get a good functioning branch. We do everything we can with those guys to get them functioning. If not, then we merge them with the, and let me tell you this, we don't just merge them to get rid of them. You know what I mean? When the discussions that I have with Justin and Christina about mergers, I'm like, if it's not a branch, we're not going to merge them with a branch unless they're going to get better representation. We're going to merge them with somebody that can come in there and help them, that's going to have the financial means to be able to take them, find a person, and send them to training and get them properly trained. And that's what we do, man. And that's what we got to do everywhere. I mean, look, I'm going to be honest with you. It drives me crazy and it pisses me off when I'm sitting there and I've got these 25 and 30 member branches that are calling me for outside stewards all the time. And then I go in there and find out that damn at Christmas, they take their whole account and they split it among the damn carriers. That ain't what damn union dues is for. The union dues is for representation of the members, so they want to sit here and put it on my back because you know what? Putting it on my back is one thing. But here's the problem, Josh, and you know this. As an outside steward, I did it for 20 years. I walk in there in 5 minutes, I can go in there and settle the case because they want to get my ass out of there. And it's a Band-Aid. As soon as I walk out the door, they're going right back to the same damn violations. They're going to do the same shit. And they're going to have all these carriers, some of these carriers making these little deals against the contract. We got to put them with the group collectively where there's oversight, where we can actually make sure the bylaws are followed and the contract is followed. So, I mean, that's a simple process I think we got to do. And like I said, your region was a top dog that really pushed that when it happened. And I can tell you, it's not always a popular thing. But it is what it is for the representation of the members. So
yeah, David definitely did talk about that the last Kim region training.
Yeah.
Let's see. We're facing a crisis at the post office with delivery standards and being able to hire people. I think the issue is with our declining mail volume. What can we do to work with the Postal Service so we can all still have jobs several years from now?
That's a great question, man. Man, first thing is we got to have a willing partner for them to work with us. You know what I mean? Right now, they're pretty much not willing to work with us on a lot of things at the top because, to be honest with you, man, they feel like everything's in their favor. They feel like the administration is anti-worker, the Department of Labor is anti-worker. I mean, matter of fact, this big push right now on Step B, DRT, I think everybody heard about pretty much what the proposals on Article 15 that the Postal Service came with. They want to do away with the DRT process. They want to go back to step 1, 2, and 3. For the simple fact is we whooping our ass in step B, and they don't like present step B decisions being present setting within the installation because they can't make their people comply. What we have to do is look at the business model of the Postal Service. The way we invest our, retiree funds and in all those funds and everything that's in that ticket up there should be able to be openly invested in funds that have been long-term oversaw where they've been profitable. So we can invest that money and make a lot more money and pay those bills. And then it gives the Postal Service more operating funds. Because look, man, it's a shitty run company. I don't think nobody disagrees with that. It's shitty run. Look, man, I don't know about where you at. Down here, most of the new supervisor manager we get to, the damn people's too damn lazy to carry mail. Or they got a damn complex like they think they the shit.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Labor reps down here. Look, arbitration most of the time is easy. When we lose, it's because we got a shitty case. Because the labor reps don't even know what the hell they doing. They want to go in there and argue a bunch of procedural shit and all that because they don't even know the merits of the case. They don't even know the damn contract. I mean, that's a simple fact of it. But we have to change the business model. We got to be able to open up things, and that's through Congress. You know what I mean? Look, I hear I hear, all James Corey non-compliance. Look, we got shitloads of non-compliance up here. We've got it out the ass up here, left and right, man. And like I said, I say this all the time. I told Mike Carrick this one time. He bragged about how, like, I think Illinois has got like $8 million in non-compliance. And you know what I said is, I think one year, man, I got like 19 million. I said, I'm never gonna brag about how much money I made the Postal Service pay on non-compliance. I'm gonna brag when I can stop it. So there's letter carriers, non-ODLs ain't being forced to work, where the contract's not being violated all the time. Where people ain't being put out on 16-7 for stupid shit all the time just because they want to make them go without pay. There's so many things I can go into, man, is that we got to get fixed. But look, man, I agree with a lot of the stuff that Mike and James and them talk about. But don't necessarily, I agree about how they go about it, because I'm going to tell you, the workroom floor is shit. You know what I mean? The vehicles are unsafe. But the answer to that is we got to figure out how do we got to have the influence up there. And like I said, we got to make it an open market, because what did the Postmaster General, Josh, in that last testimony, he said it's the most important thing that I don't think people really understood. He said, if we're going to continue universal service to all these customers, then y'all going to have to pay for it.
Yep.
If y'all ain't going to pay for it, then you're going to have to allow me to cut services. That right there is a ticket where he's telling them, go act. And he know damn well that they're not going to go back to pre-1970 where taxpayers are going to be funding the Postal Service. So he wants to go back and try to hatch that shit, which is going to lead into one of your questions later that we're going to talk about when we get to these 410s. And I'll tell you how I really feel about the 410s or whatever, on that right there. But we have to really have congressional influence. We got to have the right people in office. We got to change the way the Postal Service is run, how they can invest their money to make more money, open and profitable so they can invest it. Then that's time for us to really go fight for our, when we're in better financial footing, we got a better administration, and we can really fight for the raises we really do need to get a lot higher. And I really think, based on the situation right now, we're just not going to get these super big raises. I believe that with my heart, based on my legislative experience and all that. Somebody's not going to like it, but I got a right to my opinion. And damn it, I hope I'm wrong. But, we'll see. So
yeah, we'll see. Now, why is Region 9 so successful at route inspections? And are you going to use that model nationwide, even with the cost of it? I don't know what they're referring to, but maybe you can help me understand.
Let me tell you what we got, man. But let me kind of give you the preface how I got to it. So look, man, when we opted out of Tyreek had a lot of holes in it. I think we agree with it. I've heard Corey and all his interpretation of Tyreek and DSR, and we were giving in to GPS data and all this shit, and we were selling to people out and all this. But see, man, look, man, I was through all the RAPs. I did route inspections. I was an arbitration advocate who advocated a lot of route inspection cases, and I can tell you this: one of the most problems, even right now in Region 9, right now, in our grievances, man, the biggest problem we have is 3999s. You know what I mean? Because you got supervisor managers in there, they're trained to go in there and try to deduct time, take shit away. They don't know how to do the proper segment. You end up getting a shit product. At least when you had DSR, it was based on a scanner on the carrier's hip, what he actually did. And you could go in there and track through it with the letter carrier and actually get a decent representative time on the 3999. That's what was good about DSR. Or are they going to turn around in the future and try to discipline? Hell, they're already doing that. I mean, they go around trying to stationary vent and shit and all that time, but we're talking about good, clean data to give our letter carriers a good average based on what they're doing on the street. What better than what they're actually doing? Not based on some supervisor out there who's trying to sit there and put them on waiting other without an explanation. Then we got to argue a bunch of shit. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
But my point to it is this. We opted out of Tyreek. All right. It drove me crazy because we walked out of Tyreek and Region 9 was about plus 50 routes. So we were putting in more routes when we took out routes. We had another 4 or 5 zones when they opted out and ended. We didn't get to complete. That we're actually going to be putting in some more routes, the well-needed routes. Key West was a key one, and several other ones. So, all of a sudden we went to they were going to go to chapter 2s. Let me tell you one night, and my REAs, if you ever talk to them, they're gonna tell you that sometimes they'll get texts from me from like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning and shit. That man, when Tyreep ended, we started getting these chapter two training schedules and so on. That one night about 2 o'clock in the morning, I woke up, I came in here to the living room, and I was like, man, we've had so many raps over the last 15, 20 years. Back in the day that I don't have no chapter two specialists, that I don't have too many people. The ones I know are retired. So I text Ben Paul and Jeanette Triana, and Jeanette Triana's my REA that oversees chapter twos. And I said, hey, we're going to meet tomorrow. We're going to put together a route protection program. We met the next day. We walked in there. We sat in there for about 6 hours. And I told him, I said, this is what I want to do. I said, I want us to sit there. I said, instead of us doing one grievance at the end, where in our region they had already argued in a couple regional arbitration decisions, it was untimely because, and they actually won it in Lakeland, Florida, under Bayhawker, which was, a terrible decision, pretty much saying it's untimely if you didn't do it within so many days. So we put a route protection book together, starting from the notification period to the review period to the dry run period to the week of inspection. We went so on. It was like, I think it was 29 grievance starters that we went through the whole component. We brought in, I think the first time we brought in 25 letter carriers. We put them in there for 4 or 5 days. We trained them through the whole process. And then when every time there was a scheduled route inspection, then we would deploy them out there and we would put them on TAs and we would keep them there. Most of them were probably there 4, 5, 6 weeks, sometimes even more. So we started at, I think in the first spring, I think we ended up, I think we threw out, I think Step B threw out maybe 8 or 9 route inspections. We pre-arbed out probably 4 or 5 or 6 more. We were able to get some joint agreements to go back in there and correct the data, review the data before the route's implemented. We had various different luck with that right there. Again, man, we were able to totally, I think we finished the spring probably plus routes. I'll give you a perfect example, and it's highly controversial all the time, is like Charlotte, North Carolina. All right, Charlotte, North Carolina, man, is, the postmaster there, man, he's an ass. He went to his area VP. He went in there and wanted to count the whole damn city. I mean, they took about 50 or 60 inspectors. They went in there and counted the whole damn city. Their intentions, they come waving around this little Wilma program saying they thought they could get 46 routes out of there and everything. I sent 2 young ladies in there the whole time. One from Raleigh, North Carolina, one from Roanoke Rapids. The one from Roanoke Rapids, she's an expert. They did about 190 cases. They pinned them up. They were wrapping them up. Finally, man, we were on the phone with the postmaster and actually made a deal. And the deal was that we would go back to the week after the inspection when we got all the data. That they would go through. The union would have to sit down with the NALC, review the data, make all the corrections to the data, and they would have to agree from each point all the way through the end of the process. And after we finished Charlotte, they ended up adding, I think it was 14 full-time routes. I think it was 6 T6 strings, about another 7 or 8 or 9 auxiliary routes. And they spent about $338,000 on sending people there, and they didn't get no damn savings. They ended up having to put new routes. The reason I say it's controversial because there's a little kid down there in Charlotte. He's a pro 8 arbitration. He's a core guy, and that's cool. Ain't nothing wrong with that. He likes to talk, but I'll give you a perfect example one day. Is David Groskopf won a good arbitration up there a few months ago. I think it was on them not giving the 1840 reverses in advance. I think the count was from like maybe 2023, 2024. They got their decision, and the arbitrator gave a cease and desist. And this guy's like, this is what I'm talking about. My national business agent made an agreement. They're over there fighting and they got the route count thrown out. And I was like, they got a cease and desist, bro. A cease and desist means they just next time they got to give them the shit in advance. What I'm telling you about is in route inspections, here's the deal. What you got to do, the union is never going to win in a route inspection. Because if we put routes in, we piss letter carriers off. If they take routes out, they piss letter carriers off. Because letter carriers don't like the routes to change. So we had zones in Charlotte where we're adding 5 or 6 routes. And then we had a couple of zones where we lost 3 or 4 routes. But my point is, and this is what I say all the time, is, hey, man, we might have missed things. But we walked away with 15 more CCAs that are going to be made regular and T6s, and we won the battle. You see what I'm saying? Did we get everything right? Hell no, because we're dealing with a shitty program. So my point is everything we do is try to lessen the impact and correct it as quick as we can. I can tell you this. Me and Corey, I like Corey. I respect Corey. We're getting along good. The biggest argument we ever got into was a podcast he did. And I'm going to tell you exactly what took place. We had a route count in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. All right. The branch president of Savannah, Georgia, went in there for 4 months. She filed a shitload of grievances. And they went to Step B. And the Step B team, we got them to bundle all the route inspection cases into one decision. And they threw the count out. They gave them 30 days to put the routes back. And they gave the affected carriers that lost their routes, I think, $500 a piece. And the reason that we got into it is because he went on there and just made a big deal because it didn't have cease and desist and it had immediately comply. And he said, this is a sellout. This is a sellout. We should have got a cease and desist and a cease and desist and this. Well, and this was my conversation with him. I said, look, dude, it's a Step B decision that's taking 2 people that lost their routes and making them getting their routes back. They throwing the route count out. I'm not going to impasse and hold those people up and have them routes messed up for a cease and desist. I got set presidents in there. I think he said, well, it ain't got no teeth. It said presidents. It lessened the impact on the carriers. So if I'm going to sit there on that one and not take a cease and desist so I can get a route count thrown out of Step B, and let me ask you a question. How often do you see route counts get thrown out of Step B?
Not often.
How many of you? We're like 23. We're like 23. You see what I'm saying? So my point is, it's agreement on disagreement. And that's fundamental disagreements that I'll have with them and all them because, look, man, is just to go in there and say, oh, man, we're going to get cease and desist every time. We're going to get this and this and this. Homeboy, you better be thinking about to file you out, what you're doing and what you're trying to get for your member to lessen the impact and help him get corrected as quick as possible. And that's what a national business agent has to do. So that's all we try to do, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. But the route counts, man, we're still going with it. We're fighting them every day. I think we got about 400 some cases up there. We just did one 2 weeks ago, threw out one in Gainesville, Georgia. Before that, we threw Decatur, Georgia. I think all 3 zones in Decatur, they had to put them back. Florida, we've actually got Step B decision, having them go back to correct the data. We got the routes back, but we've lost some too. I think totally right now, since the spring and the fall of last year and the spring of this year, I think totally, which you take away what we've added, minus I think Region 9 has probably lost about 30 or 40 something routes. Hey man, and we still got a lot of grievances out there and we continue to fight, but here's the deal. We have a program. The ultimate goal, what we got to do, if it went across the country, is we got to get everybody on the same program. We got to get all the MBAs together. We got to bring them together. Because just like your MBA, look, when I started the route protection program, I forgot to tell you this. The first thing I did is I went to Ron Osborne and I went to Dave Mudd and they sent me a route inspection training they got. So for me to sit here and say, hey man, I just created the Bible of route inspections. No, man, it came from their stuff. It came from what we needed to do it for our members in our region. It came from a lot of different people. You pick from different avenues, whatever fits your agenda, but what's the best training for your members to move forward? And we've been good at it. We've been really good. Have we had some hiccups and bubble? Yeah, we've had some hiccups, man, but it's been a group effort. And here, let me say this about the money. It does cost a lot of NAA hours, but that's what the damn dues is for. You know what I mean? We are the single richest. I don't know if people realize this. We're a multi-billion-dollar union. We're the largest union in the country. We're the richest union in the country. I don't think people realize that. The money is for representation. And I'm going to use the money If I got to spend more money to save people's jobs, then I'm going to spend the damn money. If I'm going to be a national officer, I'm worried about the money and I'm going to let somebody take my damn job, take jobs away, then I don't need to be a national business agent. I mean, that's just the way I see it. I might be wrong, man, but it is what it is. Those people go out there for months at a time, away from their families, sitting in the hotels, sitting there going through tedious 1838s, 1840s, 3999s, and that shit ain't no fun. But they do the commitment for our members, and I respect them for doing it every day. So,
All right. What have you done to combat directives that are unreasonable? For example, this no lunch directive. And what have you done about the backlog when it's caused by directives by the district manager?
well, let me say this right here. As far as no lunches, I mean, we've got a lot of settlements on no lunches. I mean, we've got a lot of precedent setting settlements on no lunches. I don't know of no lunches being an issue in Region 9 right now. I've heard it's popped up somewhere. I mean, if it's an issue right there, man, we have grievance starters. We've got a lot of information we put out on those, but we've been very, very successful with those on past practice grievances and stuff like that. If that's a wholesale thing, I mean, I haven't really seen that, pop this way that much yet. So,
Okay.
what was the other question on that? So,
Well, basically, they were saying, when the district manager says, "Hey, you got to initiate this no lunch policy," what do you do?
okay.
How would you deal with that? Because now you got a backlog of grievances because every single station has to
Yeah.
file a grievance.
I mean, let me tell you, when we get directives from district managers, just like we just had one the other day where a district manager, we got a hold of a letter from a district manager where he put out to all the managers that, they can't sell a grievance more than $100 and or I think an informal and this is a formal A. The first thing I did is we put out a grievance starter guidance to all our branches. And then I sent a letter to all the district managers and to Jim Lloyd and pretty much said, this is a violation of the contract. I'm asking you to retract this. And then I take that email I sent to the district manager, I sent it to all the branch presidents and tell them to put that in their files and argue where the district manager was notified of his policy. And if he don't retract it, then he's not bargaining in good faith. He's taking their authority away to settle at the lowest level. And that's exactly how we handled that. Matter of fact, after that took place, we got an email and all this from Jim Lloyd about a week later that we sent out to all of them where the district manager had retracted it and so on. I mean, whether they started settling or not, I seriously doubt it, but we face it head on. We face it head on. I go right at them, I attack them. I tell them we can have a conversation about it, but we also send the guidance out to the branches, tell them how to handle it, tell them how to do it, and tell them the biggest thing is don't sit on the grievances. Get on it fast, get on it hard, and move them up as quick as possible so we can try to do something to knock it out as quick as we can. So,
All right. Perfect.
all right.
Can you explain? This one's a little bit long. Can you explain why the NBA's office has not pursued stronger action to ensure that it is addressing repeated concerns from a lot of active letter carriers out of branch 1071 concerning the lack of training provided to shop stewards, decisions to leave offices without stewards at all, branch leadership failure to get national involved with issues like management, having unassigned regulars reporting to various stations without assigning them to job ID numbers or routes?
Yeah. Some of that stuff right there, I'm not privy to as far as job ID numbers and so on. I do know this right here, and I'm gonna tell you this exactly. I've had conversations, not with numerous people. I've had conversations with about 3 or 4 shop stewards, and well, yeah, they're all shop stewards about training concerns. And this is exactly what I tell them right there. Your bylaws and in your branch, the bylaw talks about how training is done. If it's not covered in your bylaws and you think there should be more training or you want to come to my steward college and my trainings, then you need to go get your people together, go to the meeting and make a motion. It's that simple. And I think the one thing I think what they forget to talk about is they go make the motions and they fail. You see what I'm saying? So as a national business agent, sure, most certainly, man, I'm about training. I don't know if you hear about my region. I'm sure Wayne and them tell you, man, we train. We have a steward college. We do it 2 times a year. We spend days and days with them. But it's not my job to control what the branch does. By all means, I've had conversations and calls, with 1071, but I'm gonna be honest with you. they have like a 91 or 92% win rate at Step B. They've had a whole lot. Excuse me, man. One of my dogs just run by. But to say that any branch can use and have more training, they can. But look, I can't go in there and change the will of the members. You know what? I can't go in there if they go in there and say, we need more training. I make a motion that we send 10 people to the Stewards College and pay all their wages and all this. If it fails, then it fails. Then you do what I had to do and what everybody else has to do. You go around, you plead your case to the members, and you ask them to come out and support you and get enough membership behind you so it'll pass. But a lot of people think as the national business agent, I can just go in there and say, you're going to go do this right now. No, man, the Constitution talks about a branch. Branches don't want the NBA in there trying to run their region. We're an aid to them. We are a resource to them. We're not sit there and try to dictate. How would you like if I, as the branch president, if I tried to call you and say, you better go do this and you better send this one to training and this one to training? I mean, you're going to be like, man, you better stay out of my shit. That ain't what the Constitution says. And you would be right. So my point is, I get what they're saying. I get their frustrations. Then work for it, man. Don't go all over social media and make a big deal about it, saying the NBA ain't doing his part, because I'm restricted on what I should do. And again, my job is to support the branches, support the stewards, and I'm going to do that. You know what I mean? And like I said, is if they come to that training, and this is exactly what I told. As a matter of fact, I had one of them text me yesterday, and I said, look, your branches decide who you sends to training. However, as a national business agent, I never turn anybody away. We have people that come on their own dime. And again, I don't tell them who's going to come. They don't tell me who's going to come. If you're a union member and you want the training, then you'll be welcomed anytime. And that's just the way I see it, Josh. So,
All right.
All right, what else we got?
What's your opinion on the 4 10-hour work days that was brought up at the bargaining conference?
I think it's a proposal, and I think it needs to stay a proposal. That's what I think about it. And look, man, I'm looking at it different than everybody else. I'm looking at it from the political side. We talked about what that Postmaster General said earlier. He said earlier, man, is we're going to keep universal 6-day service and somebody's going to have to pay for it. Can you imagine if we there made agreement to go to four 10-hour days? Now, I know they say we're still going to deliver 6 mail. We're going to have 2 T6s. But who's to say that the Postal Service ain't going to go back to Congress and say, hey, man, they've already agreed to go to 4-day work schedules. Why don't you go ahead and let us take some of those work days away? You don't think they would do that?
Oh, yeah,
I think they would. I think they would jump on a heartbeat. And I can tell you this right there. It's a proposal. And look, here's the deal right here. Brian was in a pickle because Brian had talked about it during our sessions and all that about the 4 10-hour days. Well, there was a serious proposal because when he brought it out to the executive board, man, it was shot down pretty quick, pretty heavily hearted. But if he didn't talk about it in front of them people that it was a proposal, then it would have got out and they would say he's not being transparent. He put it out there. I give it to him. He bit the bullet on it. He put it out there. But I am adamantly against it. I've told him that. I've told everybody. I think everybody knows that. And I think probably most people know who on the executive board is against it. I mean, look, I'm a traditional, letter carriers work 5 days, rotating days off. Some people got fixed, because I'm about, I want to have that T6 because I want to have that job. I want to be able to have that person's job. This fantasy or proposal about we can go to 4 days and then we'll have this T6 and this T6. I just see postal management in this place and time of this administration and what's going on anti-union and coming in here saying, well, we need to go to 4-day. They've already agreed to a 4-day work week, and then we done lost even more damn jobs. So that's my opinion on it, brother.
Makes sense.
So I hope that answers your question pretty clear. So
now, are you opposed to the president being the sole negotiator with none of the executive board for the economics and bargaining?
Man, let me say this right here. That's the way it's traditionally been done. Okay. I mean, what Brian did is pretty much what the previous presidents had done. But the answer is, man, is anybody who's going to take it alone by themselves and not really have, conversations and to keep people to talk about it, man, you're killing yourself. So what I'm saying is that's pretty much the way it is now, and believe me, I said this the other day, man, and I probably should say it, but I'm gonna say this right here, man, is Brian's doing a lot better this time. He's being transparent. He's doing everything he can to put as much information out of here. The problem is, if he would have done this last time, we would be sitting in a different scenario right now. A lot of things happen. The biggest thing is I always saying is I didn't have so much heartburn with the contract. I got so much heartburn is how it was presented. Historical contract. We're there. You can't say historical and then give a 1.3 because that's mediocrity. That's what we were already getting. You see what I'm saying? He oversold it, man. He burned his credibility a little bit. Well, I hate to even say a little bit, but what I'm saying is what he don't understand is he's still having to deal with that coming into this. You see what I'm saying? So, and I can tell you this right now. I talked about it other time. And look, here's the deal, man. He's right about some things. That if he sits there and he goes in front of our executive board right now and he says, okay, the Postal Service right now is saying they'll give 1.2 for 4 years, and they're willing to go out about $4.2 billion. If he sits there and tells that executive board that, by the next day it will be out everywhere. It will be out. I'm just saying, and so he's got to keep it tight-lipped. I think he gave a broad range. Saying we might be able to sell for 1.5, 1.5, 1.5. I think he said somewhere in that area between $4.5 billion and $5 billion or something right there. I think he gave a range, but the things I look at is I'm looking at the range, I'm looking at the more money added on P, but the biggest thing I'm looking is that I want to hear about is shortening the weeks before the steps. There's a whole lot of things that's going to help our younger employees so they can get to that top step. But the biggest thing is in this contract negotiation, we got to make sure we try to think about everybody. Because last time, a lot of those guys, I think between B and O, really didn't get nothing extra. P got a bump. The bottom lost A and AA. The middle guys kind of felt like they got left out. So we got to be able to try to spread that among everybody and get as much as we can. I mean, and I can tell you this right now, the NALC as a whole has got the attention of NALC headquarters. And I'm not talking about Brian Renfro. I'm talking about everybody, man. We have to change the way we do things. The status quo and what's been happening up there that worked for the last 20 or 30 years, it just don't work no more. We got to go about it a different way. We're dealing with elements we've never dealt with before. We're dealing with social media. We're dealing where now Atlanta carriers get a lot more information because of podcasts and social media than they used to get. It used to be locked in. The one thing I just talk about is just make sure you educate yourself completely and you're not listening to the wrong person. Or don't make one person's opinion yours. Dig into it, look into it, make sure you got the answers, ask questions. Because I can sit on any podcast and sit there and say, man, it's not quite like that. I mean, I've seen some podcasts and I was like, hey, man, them dudes right there, they are completely off their rocker. They're wrong. I just worry about people getting accurate information, particularly the young employees.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want them to understand what's at stake. So.
Yeah, it's understandable. All right, I'm going to put these two together because they're similar, and I'm trying to make it not a 2-hour thing, if you don't mind.
No, that's all right.
I see. What's your thoughts on the Article 10 charges having a remedy for removal? And what are your thoughts on Branch 70 Microvera suspension from the branch?
Man, I'm so sick of Article 10 charges. I mean, look, man, Article 10 charge was weaponized. It came popular during Brian's stuff, and since that, it's just got out of hand. I laugh at Mike all the time because Mike got Article 10 charge. Look, dude, I think I probably got the record on the executive board. I think I've had Article 10 charges 3 or 4 times. Now, granted, it's by the same person about every time, but I don't worry about Article 10 charges. And people misconstrue what Article 10 charges are. It's like right now, Mike got Article 10 charges because he painted his face red at a rap session. And I was like, that's not an Article 10 charge offense. That's somebody out there acting like a damn child. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's a professional environment. You know, if you want to draw attention, man, draw it on your own damn time. People trying to get in there and try to get some information. And, you know, but he has a right to do that. But, you know, I told him, I said, Mike, you get an Article 10 charge. I said, hell, I remember you telling everybody to go out there and file the hell out of Article 10 charge. I guess you meant file them, but just don't file them on you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But look, man, this Article 10, the Rivera thing, I'm very familiar with it. I'm very, very familiar with it. You know, I saw it and all this. Look, man, it's bull crap. It's bull crap right now. Look, you know, it's going to be politicized because the branch president is the treasurer of the CLC and Mike's not and everything. But here's the deal right here. Mike Rivera has a right to file Article 10 charges on an election. He has the right to do that. You know, if he decides to post it on, if he decides to post it on social media, whether it's accurate or not accurate, he has a right to do that. Man, I have people post stuff on me all the time that is bullshit. I don't care. But then you're going to turn around and file Article 10 charges on him and try to kick him out of the union, man. Look, man, that's a waste of time. That's pitiful right there. He has a right to his opinion. I got news for everybody. You ain't going to make everybody happy as a branch president. You're going to have people. I got people that attack me on social media and Facebook every time. And you know what I do? I just sit there and ignore them. I got this one guy who sits there and gives me a friend request every damn day. Every day. And I refuse it. And then he sits there and goes on there. He's refusing to be my friend on Facebook. Well, I got news for you. As the constitutional amendment, the agreement I took to be the NBA, it ain't to be your damn Facebook friend. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So my point is, it's chicken shit. It don't matter if the charges are found substantial or not substantial, guilty or not guilty. He posted it, posted. How about you just do this? You just post it where the charges were voted down. But you're going to kick him out of the union. You kicked him out of the union. You know, like I said, we're weaponizing Article 10. It's wasting a lot of union times and it's dividing a lot of branches. Because I guarantee you, all these ones that are having all these Article 10 charges, letter carriers want to come there and hear what's going on with their jobs. They don't want to hear a bunch of bullshit, so they're probably going to quit coming to meetings. It's childish, and we need to get away from it. And I mean, like I said, that's just the way I feel about it. Look, I've had 3 or 4 Article 10 charges on me. You know what I love about my Article 10 charges is? My Article 10 charges I got, not a single one of the executive board has voted that I was guilty on anything. That means that the division we got, everybody sees through and understands the Constitution. And here's the deal right here. The Article 10 charges I get is because people call me up and want to tell me that I'm going to give them outside steward and I'm going to give this and I'm going to override their branch president. And I'm going to tell you, if you got good representation that your members voted on, then they're going to represent you. I'm going to call them and make sure they represent you, but you're not going to call up and tell me who's going to represent you and who's not going to represent you. And if you want to file Article 10 charge, you can file them all damn day. Yep. Because that's the only thing I can promise you right there. I am going to stick behind my branch presidents. If they're wrong, then I'm going to correct them. And that's just the way I feel about it. But it's a trap. You know what really drives me crazy about them Article 10 charges is? Where the hell is this damn committee at? Where is this headquarters? I mean, look, I got 4 or 5 people got election stuff up there. Why is it taking so long? Who oversees that committee? Who's the head of it? Call a meeting, man. I'm sure he wants to get his charges done before the convention. You know what I mean? Let's not politicize the process. Let's get the man some action. Let's get it taken care of as quick as possible. We shouldn't be putting this off. All right, let's move on.
All right. Do you believe it's okay for the national president to take away duties of elected resident officers?
I think it depends on, look, I can say this right here. I think it depends on how they doing their job. If it's for political reasons, no. I can tell you that right now. If it's for political reasons, no. If it's for issues that they can't handle the job or they're not doing the best thing for our members, then absolutely. He has the authority to do that and he should do that. And I would back him 100% right there. So that's my question right there. But if just because somebody's running, then no, nothing should be stripped away from them. A matter of fact, I would probably do it the other way. If I got somebody to run against me, I say, well, go do your job. Let's see how you do it and hold you accountable. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because it's a lot easier to sit on the outside and judge somebody on the inside, but when you on the inside and having to do it, you got to answer for the same work being done, then you're in a different scenario. So that's just how I feel about it, man.
Now,
So
what's your opinion of
what
the
else we got?
curtailment of mail and to make non-penalty overtime status?
Man, the look, Mr. Lino, look, I agree with him 100%. The delay and curtail the mail, the service standards, man, it's gonna kill the postal service. It is, man. The biggest thing that we've had over the years is the customers love us because of the service. These supervisor managers go in there, they lie, steed, and chill. All they look at every day is getting their mail volume in there, spending the amount of hours and trying to make them damn hours. They scan shit, they scan packages that ain't even been attempted. There's mail that sits in there. They're right about that. They are. But that comes down to it is in the Joy's 10-year plan. The great plan that he had, that he thought he had, was to give these SDNCs. Is the worst part about it relaxed the service standards. And it took away where, they just sit there and delay damn routes at a time. It needs to be fixed. It needs to be addressed. But you know where the main place that should be addressed? Through Congress, through the Senate, and it needs to be exposed right there. I really like how a lot of people are going after it, trying to file grievances. I think David Grosskopf in Buffalo put a decent argument that I think we can try. Down there in 1071. Down there down there is Tom Pyro, one of the full-time officers, was able to get a cease and desist and say they can't cut mail, and I think he got $100 non-compliance payment paid on that, and then I think we actually in my office, my REA got a pre-arb that bumped it up to $500 on that right there. But here's the key. When we talk about those settlements, it's really a hard argument in front of an arbitrator to win it about them just delaying the mail. What we make about it is the falsification of the delay in mail. They're not reporting it, and stuff like that. So that's where we go about it. But look, man, if we're going to survive in the postal service and this business structure, we got to make ourselves reliable and viable again, and we're not there. And these people are right. Look, I watch little Lino's little videos and everything about that right there. Look, man, it's good. What I'm saying is as good as it needs to draw attention. It needs to be corrected, but it's everywhere. But it's a systemic thing that we really have to deal with Congress and Senate and really push it if we're going to make a change with that. And we got to be in a better position. So,
all right. You stated before that if the election was held today, that you didn't know who you would vote for between Mike Cariff, Brian Renfro, and James Henry. Now that you have some time from then to now, what's your position?
Man, who that question come from? Well, let me go through each one. Mike don't have a ticket. And Mike, look, man, I'm saying right here is, I think I've talked to Mike, and Mike's like, hey, man, I'm running by myself. I want to run. We're at a time we need to run by ourselves. No, man. You got to have the people around you that's got to have the traits and the understanding that's going to be faithful to you, loyal to you, understand the job, pay attention to detail, and work with you. I don't see that right there. Man, just like, I watched, you with Corey on the podcast, and, Corey, look, he's a bulldog, he's a cheerleader, man. And, I like him to talk about, hey, on that ticket right there, man, every single one of them's fighters and bulldogs and all this. And I disagree with that. Man, look, I get it, man. You're going to you're going to stick behind your people and all that. But, look, man, when I see people on tickets running for NBA and stuff like that, then, I'm not going to sit there and rate somebody running from Region 2 or Region 15. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about branch presidents and the relationships that they have from them, working for them, and get their traits on it right there. And then I'm going to pass my judgment on right there. So, it's just like some of the full-time officers, man. I'm sorry, the headquarters office on the national ticket, man, is, it's cool to be a great arbitration advocate and be a great trainer. But when you're an executive vice president, you're vice president, man, then you got to understand the process. You got to understand it. You're up there dealing with the top echelon people, man. You can't just walk in there and, and say, I'm gonna file a grievance and demand this. You got to be able to understand how it works. You got to be able in those meetings, you got to understand where they're going, what they're doing. The biggest thing that we got to do up there from the top down is we got to get that information from the top down, and we got to get the people at the bottom proactive and across the board. We got to get our MBAs all communicating. We got to get our step Bs communicating. We got to get all the branches on the same page across the level. We got to pay attention to detail. We got to pound the shit out of them on grievances. And that way, when it gets up there, we've got so much leverage on them. We got so much evidence on them. Then they got to come to the table. We can't do it the back way. We can't go in there and demand and say, hey, I want this and this and this and this and this, and it don't work like that. We got to have the people at the end give us the leverage. And even with that, they're going to cheat. Non-compliance, they get mad about it. So they're going to call an interpretive issue. The DRT process, they're getting their ass whooped. So they're going to stop activating backups. They're going to do everything they can. And the worst thing we do at headquarters now is we talk ourselves out of fighting. We want to get in there and say, well, if we take this interpretive issue to DRT, we could lose this and we could lose this. We're already fucking losing, man.
Yeah.
We got 50,000 case backlog. I got branches in Miami that are sitting there waiting 11 and 12 months to get a B decision. We have to do something. Something has to change. You see what I'm saying? But just going in there and demand it's not going to take place. It's not going to happen. We're going to have to go in there and we're going to have to sit there and put it together. And it's got to have somebody with that knowledge just been in it. It would have to be somebody that's been in an MBA or a position like that that's a bulldog that really understands that, to really is going to push that. And that's what concerns me of that right there. I mean, I think I heard Corey say the other day, oh man, it's just as simple as going from this to that. No, it's not. It's not that simple. That's a whole different playing field, because when you get up there, you're talking about lawyers, you're talking about labor reps that, Doug Tolino is not no slouch. Jim Lloyd's not a slouch. He's an asshole. He's not a slouch, man. But that's what I'm saying but what we got is we got our guys. NALC people are educated better, but we got to do better. We got to communicate better. We got to put programs out there and we got to tear their ass up and bring them to the table. And at the same time, we got to be building our members in Congress and legislation. And we got to get those guys and have them and get the right people in office and putting the pressure to the Postal Service to do the right thing. That's how we got the DRT process to start with. So you're going to have a whole lot of moving parts, and everybody's got to come together. And that's how it's going to be. Nobody's going to walk in there. Mike Cariff, James Henry is not, and nobody's going to walk in there and change that shit overnight. If they saying they are, then they're full of shit. And they're going to put themselves in a situation where the credibility's gone because they promised something they can't deliver. It's going to take everybody together. And the key word is we all got to be together. We can't be fighting each other. We got to be together, and we got to sit there and have executive board that's going to come from it. Because I honestly believe this executive board, you're probably going to have CLC people. You're going to have different tickets of people that are all going to be in there together. And hopefully when it's over, whoever the leaders is going to be able to bring these people together as one. Don't hold no grudges, and do the best thing we can to get this union and move it forward and get it back to the way it used to be. And I honestly believe that. So,
all right. What would you grade?
All right.
What grade would you give Brian Renfro during his time as president?
Look, politically and legislatively, I'd give him an A. Contractually, working with the executive board and collective bargaining and all that, I'd probably give him a D. And that's being modest right there. So what I'm saying is, the one thing I'm gonna tell you, man, is if he done shit, I'm gonna tell you shit. If he done good, he good. Like I said, legislating politically, man, he's good. He's good.
Yeah.
The other way, man, is, his communication, his transparency and all that, man, it kind of put him in a hole. He matured quick from it. Is it too little, too late? I don't know. But that's my honest opinion of it. He'll see this I think he knows how I've talked about it with him. Look, man, you probably know this. Everybody tell you, man, I don't hold shit back. I'll say it like I see it, whether it's good for me or bad for me. Because look, man, I'm a national business agent, but at the end, I'm just a letter carrier from Durham, North Carolina, branch 382. And that's just the way I want to leave it, man. So,
All right.
all right.
Do you believe Fred Rolando made a mistake when he ran Brian Renfro for president, knowing that Brian was an alcoholic and womanizer? Do you believe President Fred Rolando made a mistake by hiding from the city letter carrier the fact that Brian Renfro was an alcoholic and womanizer when he ran him for president?
Well, I mean, look, I'm sure you guys know, and you've seen it. Look, I testified against Brian Renfro on his Article 10 charges, and I told the truth and I didn't tell no lies. Look, I got a lot of flack and all that stuff right there, but it is what it is. But here's the one thing I'm gonna tell you, and I think somebody put in there is like, if you knew about it, why you didn't say nothing? Well, here's the deal right here. When I came up there, it became Fred's executive assistant. Man, I can't remember. It was I think it was right after the Detroit convention. I was already a legislative political organizer, and then I think probably 2 or 3 months after that, I became the executive assistant. That the issues with Brian Renfro that I talked about, getting the call where he was drunk outside of the bush, and the door was during that time. It was during that time. I'd say probably a year and a half or 2 years before COVID. There was some stuff that took place. I'm not going to get into Brian's personal stuff, but I can tell you this is he came back later on. I'm not saying he came back. So anyway, he struggled with some stuff during that time. That was not long after, he was appointed to EVP and he went through his first election. So during that time right there, man, he had some problems. He got a lot better. And then we went out with COVID. During COVID, I don't know about where you at, but up in DC and Maryland, man, is everybody, it was out for like a lot longer. I think we were out for maybe a year, 3, 4, 5 months. And even after that, a lot of the headquarters staff. So when COVID hit, man, everything was virtual with us. So during that time, man, we were all busting our ass because we had to jump right into the stimulus package, trying to get that money. And then we were jumping right into elections. And it was a whole lot of stuff going on during that time. Man, he did great during that time. Everything was through WebEx and Zooms. I mean, we were pounding the pavement. We were doing everything we can with the administration trying to do that. He did great. I mean, he did real good with that. He tuned right in, working with Corey, working with, with Fred and everybody. We did a lot of good stuff. So after that, man, I think it was about July that next year, they brought back the essential people. So the essential people that came back into the building was Fred, Paul, Nicole, which Paul and Nicole, man, they live there. Like those guys are like 12 hours a day stuff. Fred, Paul, Nicole, and it was me and Tim McKay. I think we were pretty much the only ones in the buildings for a few months. I mean, Brian was in there working. He did really good during that time. And then when we put the ticket together, the ticket during the election and all that, and when the ticket came together, Brian was doing okay. And even after the election, so there was no signs of him being an alcoholic, having a drinking problem or anything during that time that I saw. And look, man, it not only asked me, man, you got Chris and James, all those guys were in the building too. I mean, they could have saw something different, but I mean, there was a lot of people in there that knew about the atmosphere during that time. But so we got sworn in. I went down to Region 9. Man, our first executive board, and you'll laugh, the first executive board meeting in Marietta was excellent. It was scripted. Everybody came down there. We had a whole lot of information. It was a different form than Fred had. It was very structured. It was very, very good. It was very good. And you'll laugh is I remember telling my wife, I was like, hey man, he did pretty good. We went over a whole lot of stuff. He seemed like he had his shit together. And then from what I understand is, that's when the stuff happened was supposedly, I guess they, were drinking said something about James. I'm not going to get into all that mess kind of happened. I didn't even know about it because, of course, it was at my office. So I didn't go, I didn't stay at a hotel. So I went home. I heard a couple months later about it and, about what had happened with James. And then all of a sudden in negotiations, they called executive council and Brian was out, getting help. So what I'm saying is for me to sit there and say, hey man, I was running with an alcoholic and all that is I didn't have no signs of that. I don't think nobody did. I mean, hell, man, the strong-willed people we got on there. Look, you got James, you got Chris, you got Mike. If they had inclinations that he was a bad alcoholic drinker, you think they would run on that ticket as well? You see what I'm saying? Is everybody look, I knew about he had an issue, a problem, but I also say I'm an optimist, man. I was hoping he got over it and he got help. And he came back and it came back at a bad time. He got help. I really believe, man, he's doing good as far as his alcoholism and holding it under control. And it's a hard thing to do when you're the president of a 200,000 plus member, and you're battling addiction right there. But there's a whole lot of people depending on you. It takes a lot of will to do it, and you got to have the right people around you. So good luck to him. I hope he does it, but I hope that answers about that right there. And I can tell you this is Fred Rolando. I hear a lot of people saying about, Fred this, Fred gay, Brian and this and all this, but I want to explain something to a lot of people. Brian Renfro came up there very young, very early. He really did. Hold on 1 second, man.
Take your time.
Brian Renfro came up in there very young, very early. He was very sharp. Man, he worked a whole lot of hours to get up to where he was at. You know what I'm saying and I say sometimes, man, maybe he was too fast, too quick. Man, is the maturity level. You look at a guy like me, man. I got into postal service very early. I was a branch president for over 20 years. I was an arbitration advocate for 20 years. I was a state chair for 11 years. As I always tell guys all the time is I can tell you what not to do because I made every mistake you're going to make. I understand the pressure. I understand how much people are dependent on you. And maybe he just didn't get that. He didn't get that experience. But also, man, is for him in there. And look, I was Fred's executive assistant. That dude worked shit out of me, man. That dude right there, I worked my butt off. I worked my ass off. And I enjoyed every day doing it for him because he was a pay attention to detail. When you went in there, you had to have the right answer. Don't try to bullshit him. So Brian sacrificed a whole lot. And I just think he got into, working about 12 or 13 hours a day, going back there drinking at night, and he picked up a problem. And like I said, it is what it is. I just want to kind of leave it at that right there. I'm not making excuses for him. Like I said, I hope he continues to do good, and he's a very, very smart guy. I want to say it again, he's a sharp guy. He just got a few deficiencies, man, and we've had to see and deal with them. So, all
Now,
right.
do you feel people will attempt to use the fact that you may not have said anything against you if you decide to run in a position nationally as you being one of the good old boys?
Man, I always want to know what a good old boy is. I mean, I'm being serious, man. Look, I'm trying to see how I'm a good old boy. I'm gonna be honest with you. I've been against the status quo since I've become a national business agent. When I came back down here, man, I did my own damn thing. I always said I came back down here to be a representative. I didn't come back down here to be a politician. I'm very direct. I'm right to the point. I'm very sharp. Ask Wayne Harlow. I've chewed Wayne Harlow's ass out a couple of times. And me and him have battled left and right. And we came back together as brothers and we were able to accomplish a lot of good shit. So I'm not a part of it. I get tired of hearing the good old boy club. Look, man, when I ran against the guy that ran against me, they said I was part of the good old boy club. And when I beat him, the first thing he did, him and his compadre went into management. I mean, I'm just saying is I don't know what makes me part of that. I don't hang out with Brian Renfro. I don't know what constitutes me to be a good old boy club. I go against the grain all the time. I sit there and raise hell with Paul Barner and Dan Toth and James Henry when I feel like they don't communicate with me and they're not fighting for us. I mean, so I guess if I'm a good old boys club, because I'm on the executive board within is James and Henry, is James and Chris and Mike. See, that's what drives me crazy, man. I think if anybody is in my region, if they've been in their training and they hear me lay it out to them about why are we in this situation and how I feel about how Renfro handled this, I don't think I'd be part of the good old boys club. I think I would probably be part of, look, man, is I'm just trying to sit there and take care of my constitutional obligation right there. And it drives me crazy, man, with the good old boy club. I would love to know who that question comes from, but you ain't got to tell me. But God, I hate that term, man. So,
Now,
all right, what else we got?
are you holding off on announcing that you're running for NALC president because you're afraid Renfro might fire your appointed wife or put her back on her
No,
route? Okay.
no. Let me tell y'all something about my wife. My wife was hired at NALC headquarters before I was. My wife, not only is she a damn one of the damn best women I know, she was a badass stat B for 10.5 years. She was a headquarters facilitator. She came up to the headquarters up there. She runs a veteran group. She runs the DRF. She's the president of the DRF. I would dare him to try to sit there and do something with her. She stands on her own. She's not sit there in a side component to me. She is a badass woman. She is a badass woman right there that I adore, that I would not be here without her. Brian Renfro hasn't threatened my wife's job. Matter of fact, I've had other people sit there and pretty much make insinuations on the other side about, if I didn't get on board, that maybe my wife might be one of the staffers to be let go. And I was like, well, do what the hell you got to do. But Brian Renfro ain't threatening my wife's job. I'm not worried about Brian Renfro's threatening my wife's job. The reason that I haven't announced if I'm going to run or not, because I'm not a single loner person. I am content being a national business agent right now in Region 9. If a large group of people come to me that were on the executive board that I trust, and they said, we have to get together and do something, then I would entertain that. And if it was people that I thought were good for the job and good for the union to move this union forward, then I would be part of that. That's it. It's not about me being scared to run for it, about it's too late or too early. You don't get a reward for starting an election 2 years in advance, or hell, 2.5 years or whatever. It ain't about who starts first, it's about who finishes. Look, I have no aspirations to be the national president of the NALC. What I have an aspiration of doing is whatever I can do for this union, then do it the best I can. I'm rough around the edges, and that's just the way I am. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm saying. I think I saw somebody say today something about, oh, he puts rumors out there because he's testing the field. I don't tell nobody to put shit on Facebook about me running for national president. They do it because they like me, that I support them. I guess. And I tell them all the time, I said, man, y'all need to quit doing that shit. Well, people just want to see something different. People want to see there's something out there. That's what I hear all the time. And I'm not saying I'm the answer. Look, man, I talk like I'm from Louisiana. And look, man, I'm rough around the edges. I can handle my shit. I know politics. I know legislation. I know the contract, know how to get shit done. But that don't mean I want to be the national president. I am equipped. And I have all the traits to do all of it. But that don't mean I want to do it. I mean, right now look, I have no life. You hear what I'm saying? Well, let me say this. I have no personal life. My life every day was a phone attached to my hip, getting 500 or 600 emails a day and constantly in communication with my people. I travel all the damn time. And this is what I say all the time. Every morning that I get up to work, I enjoy getting up and going to work because I feel like I'm doing it for the right cause. And I promised myself a long time ago is when I get to the point where I don't enjoy it and I can't give it everything I got every single day, then I'm not going to do it no more. I'm not going to sit around and so I can continue to go to national conventions or something. When it's my time to step aside, it's time for the next generation to come in, and that's what keeps this union going. So my point is, it's not about that right there. I can promise you this right now. If my mind changes between now and then, I will put it out there and do it. But Eddie Davidson will not be running alone. Eddie Davidson will be with a group of people, one way or the other. I told the CLC and all of them is, well, I think they said, are you going to be one of these people running independent? I said, no, I will make a decision when it gets closer, when I decide who I think is going to be best for the union, because right now, I'm going to be honest with you, Josh, I'm sick of all the name calling and all this stuff. It disgusts me. It makes me sick, man. Man, like I had people go, I saw a video, a thing on there one day when it had a picture of me as fat bastard and say fat Eddie Davidson or this or that. I've had people on the phone tell me that I was fat and next time they saw me, it's going to whoop my ass. That's unions of brothers, sisters telling me that shit. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like I said, it makes me sick. It drives me crazy. When do we act like children? So when I say who wants to come together, be serious, to bring this union back together, because I told every single person running for national president, whoever the next national president, first thing you got to do is you got to go out there and sell it and bring this union back together. Because there's been a whole lot of tearing it apart and division, and it makes me sick. You know what I mean? I got enemies in Region 9 that people don't like me, and they probably got a reason, and I probably got a reason to like them, but guess what? Tomorrow, if they need me to represent them, I will be there for them. I will still have a conversation with them. The people that go on Facebook and talk shit about me, the Linos, Mirandas, and the Darren Knowles have never talked to me in person on the phone. They have never picked the phone up and called me and had a conversation. They go on Facebook and want to have an audience. And I'm like, man, go do your childish shit somewhere else. You know what I mean? You want to send me an email, you need representation, I'm going to call your branch and get you representation. Other than that, you can go in there and call me fat. You can call me lazy. You're going to say you got all these receipts and you're going to destroy. I don't care about that shit. I don't care. Because where are we at with a union when that's all we want to do? You know what I'm saying? I could sit on there and just sit there and entertain that stuff and go on there and beat up on them people all the time. But sometimes I feel sorry for them people because you don't know what they got going on. You don't know what's going on up here. You know what I'm saying is,
Yep.
and at the end of the day, they're union brothers and sisters, man. And that's what it comes down to me. You can call me fat. You can tell me you're going to beat me up. I mean, you can do whatever you want, man, to me, but you're not going to get a rise out of me and make me go on there and have little Facebook wars with you because that's childish.
Yeah.
Right?
Now, has Cariff or Henry asked you to run on their ticket with them? And if so, what positions?
Both of them have. Both of them have. I mean, look, I've been again, man. I've been asked to be EVP by both of them. All right. If I ain't mistaken, James did. Like I said, they talked to me a long time ago about being the EVP of the CLC. And I'll be honest with you, man. At that time, I listened a lot. I really liked what they were coming together with at that time. The problem is Eddie Davidson as a first-term national business agent, I'm not going to walk away from my region and start traveling across the country for an election because I made a commitment to the members of Region 9 that I'm gonna give them everything I got as long as I got. And they wanted a commitment and an announcement way too early, and I told them I wasn't doing it. I wasn't going to do that, and it was too early because look, man, it wasn't a full ticket. I didn't know who was going to run it. I didn't want to know who was supported, but I also wanted to see how they were going to run their campaign. And I'll be honest with you, they done some good stuff. They done some good stuff, but they done some stuff I don't really care for either. But yeah, James asked me, and Mike asked me several different positions. James and them asked me for several different positions. I can tell you this, I feel like I have a good relationship with both of them. If one of them wins, man, I'll give them everything I got, just like I am. But yeah, I've been asked by those guys.
Now, looking at everything happening in the NALC today, what gives you the most optimism about the future of our union?
Look, man, the right person comes together at the right time. Look at Vince Sombrado. And a lot of people ain't gonna realize this. Fred Rolando came about at the perfect time. And let me kind of tell you guys why. Did I lose you a little bit?
Yeah, you did for a second.
Josh, you there? Yeah. What I was gonna say is Fred came along at the perfect time. And let me tell you why he came along. Because we went from Sombrado, we went to Bill Young, which is a very, very, very aggressive, abrupt person. And then Fred came in. Let me tell you why Fred came in at the right time. Because I mean, look, a lot of people, listen to David Nobles and he talks about Fred and the DOS Award and the CCAs and all that. But see, that's only half the story, man. During that time, man, dude, we didn't have no mail. The economy was crashing, the housing market was crashing. We did our first rap because we literally, all the mailers were not mailing anything. We had nothing. And the clerks had just gave a contract up getting a new modified workforce. So in the financial situation in the time, we ended up getting the CCA classification. It wasn't popular, but I can tell you this. When it took place and when Fred took it to the membership and it was put out, man, it was overwhelmingly understood because we were in a bad spot, a bad position. We were. And you had to have somebody with charisma and stuff like he had to get us through that. Now, ever since we've got the CCA classification, I hate the CCA classification, but you know what I hated more than CCA classification? The TE classification. You know why? Because TEs made more money, but they didn't have a career path. They didn't get paid no damn holidays. On their 5-day break, if they didn't want it back, they just told them not to come back. So once you get stuck with it based on where we're at that time, then you got to start creating and make it better. So you think about it. So then we got the 2-year guarantee to be part-time flexibles. You took away steps. You gave them holidays. They got health benefits. Is continue to make it better. Do I really think that we can honestly do away with the CCA classification in this negotiation, if we go to arbitration? No. I don't think we're there yet. But I think we can definitely do away with some steps, try to get them a little bit better pay. We're not going to get them $30 an hour. We're not going to get that. But we continue to chop away at the weeks that they get their steps. We can continue to do things to get them to career faster. We're going to have to continue to fight to get that right there. If anybody thinks that we're going to go in there and just knock all that out and get everybody big fat raises and do away with the CCA classification and go to PTFs, it's not going to happen because it's too damn much money. And no arbitrator's going to give it. And look, that's not me taking a Renfro side. That's me telling you how it is. And that's just the way it's going to be, man. So we got to continue to chip away. Look, we're not getting good, we're not getting a big pool of people coming in wanting to stay. Nobody disagrees with that. We do got to make it better. And the Postal Service knows that right there, but again, we have to continue to do things. We got to have more influence with Congress. We got to have a more labor friendly people, but we got to be together on it. Because like I said, it needs to be that covenant job. I tell people all the time, I was a TE for 2.5 years and I took the damn test 100 times in 3 states. And I always said when I went to the fairgrounds in Raleigh, North Carolina, man, it was 5,000 people in there taking the test because to be a part-time flexible to start at $13.38 an hour at that time was a coveted job and everybody wanted it. And you got veterans and you got people to come in there. We got to get back to that. But we got to be together and we got to be in the right financial position for the Postal Service so we can get that.
All right.
All right.
Now, one last question that you would ask in any investigative interview. Is there anything that we don't know already? And is there anything else that you'd like to add?
I can tell you this, man. My motto in Region 9 is we're better together. My region is together. Do we have CLC people? Mike Carey people, Brian Renfro people, we do. But we're still together. I don't care. Look, man, they go around our union meetings all the time. I get branch presidents say, hey, James wants to come here, Mike wants to come here. And you know what I tell them? Look, man, there's a lot of unrest with the union. Everybody needs to hear everybody. So if you let James come, then you need to let Mike come. You need to let anybody come. You can't just let one. If you let one, you let them all. Don't let none. You know, James James very hospitable. He'll call me and say, hey, man, I'm going to be in Jacksonville. I'm going to be in Savannah. No, and look, I'm cool with that. I don't care about that right there. Look, he's very gracious to me, you know, and I'm very gracious to him. You're never going to hear Eddie Davidson say a bad word about James Henry. And I don't think you're going to hear James Henry ever say a bad word about me. Me and Corey, look, we've had it out, but we talk. I like him all right. I don't like some of the shit he says and does, but you know what? He don't like what I say either. You know what I mean? I tell him, hey, you spitting in the microphone. And he said, well, you talk over people all the time. And, you know, we just kind of laugh about it, man. It's two bulls. It's two bulls getting there together right there. But look, man, I get what he's trying to do. He's compassionate about what he does. He talks in his compassion about it, just like I do. And he's not going to disagree with me on everything. I'm not going to disagree with him. But look, the NALC needs change. I give it to him for that. We all agree we got to make a change and we got to do something different. So at least we are together on that right there. I'm going to continue to do everything I can as the NBA of Region 9. And like I said, I'm concerned. I'll be glad when this year's over, man. Because I always say, one way or the other, let's get it over. Let's get a new executive board. Let's have a kumbaya moment. Let's get back to business as usual. Let's do some new things at this union. Let's get some more things going legislatively. Let's get together as a whole and get back to the NLC we used to be. And let's save this damn union and save the Postal Service. And I believe we can do that. So again, thank you for having me on, man. And I apologize if I went on a little long. I was just trying to give the best answer I could, brother. So
it's all good. I kind of expected it, but I appreciate you being on, and thanks for coming on.
All right, man. If you ever need anything, give me a call, man. And like I said, when will you have this up and stuff?
Pretty much right away.
If these guys are getting educated, we will be in big trouble.
Management's been weighing you down like a bag of wet catalogs, but you don't gotta take it. You strap on the elbow of education, dig it?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Roseville Wrecking Ball. The Roseville Wrecking Ball.
The Roseville Wrecking Ball. He is an Article 8 scholar, and thank God, we need Article 8 scholars right now. The grievous genius and the Roseville Wrecking Ball doing amazing work.
Tune into the Parcels of Knowledge podcast while you're on the route. That's the mailman's playbook, brother.